welcome back to another episode of Not Your Mama's Midlife, where we believe that midlife is not a crisis, it's actually an awakening. Hi, I'm Tasha Davis, nurse practitioner and owner of Downtown Hydration and Wellness in Aiken, South Carolina. But for today and for future episodes, I will be your host and your tour guide through all things midlife. So let's just jump right in and raise your hand if you thought that by the time you got to the age you are now that you would just have it all figured out. Me, I just remember thinking I was a kid, a teenager, of course I thought I was grown. But I'm like, oh man, when I get to whatever age, and Lord, I really did think that, 46 was just so old that I would just have it all figured out. So I know I'm not alone in that. And I know that I'm also not alone in the fact that we're here. And guess what? We ain't got it all figured out yet, right? So if you are at a place in midlife where you have found that you have actually more questions than answers, I hope you stick around and listen to our discussion today. So today we're going to talk about religion and spirituality, or call it whatever you like. But what happens for a lot of us is that we get to a place in midlife and now we are, you know, wondering about spirituality or religions. So you could be someone who maybe you were raised in church, and maybe you've grown up one particular religion and you've never really questioned that before. It's just old hat, right? Like that's what it is. I've gone to this church, or I've in this religion. But then you get to midlife and you're just you're not questioning God. It's just more of like, well, why is this a thing? Where did that come from? Or you could be someone who was never raised in church or any formal religion. And as you've gotten older, you have found yourself, you're curious. You're curious about God. You're curious about religion. Why is it that when a lot of us hit midlife, now we're questioning things? Well, there are some reasons behind why that could be happening. Number one, I think a lot of us, we have raised children, and we get to a point of midlife and we look around and we realize how precious time is. We realize now, because we've watched our children grow up like literally in the blink of an eye. My oldest son is going to be 21 this weekend. I mean, how did that happen? My baby is graduating high school this year. I mean, I don't know how that happens, and I'm still 24. So anyway, but you start realizing just how quickly time passes. And with that realization, that could come a lot of like reflection, like, wow. So now I'm approaching 50. And, so you start having this, just mortality is on your mind. It could be that maybe you are seeing your parents aging, and maybe you see them now as, maybe they're elderly, and now you're actually seeing them in that way. And that's kind of triggering those thoughts and feelings, about God and about spirituality and about the meaning of life. Um, it could be that, maybe you have gotten to a point in your life where you were focused on career or focused on, whatever it is. And now that you have attained it, checked all the boxes for a career, family, and maybe there's still something in you that just doesn't feel quite satisfied yet, despite a comfortable home, a great salary, a comfortable life, with or without a spouse. And there's just something underneath that's just not fully fulfilled. So then you start, kind of reflecting on why that could be happening, or what you're kind of, quote unquote missing in your life to kind of have that, nagging feeling. You could maybe you've had a health scare of your own, right? I mean, maybe, I've shared with you a few weeks ago, I had a health scare, myself. And so when we have those health scares, that can kind of trigger for a lot of us just kind of like this, am I good? Am I good? If I'm not good, why am I not good? What do I need to do to be good? And that's absolutely normal. That's a natural thing to do. Um, but I really think for some of us, once we get to midlife, and we've talked about this before, we actually start listening to our bodies talk to us, right? We've said it a million times. Our bodies talk. We just have to sit still and listen. And so when we get to this part of midlife, and we're doing those types of things, we're actually listening to ourselves. We're paying attention to our bodies. Um, Maybe it's just more obvious now. Maybe that kind of yearning was always there. Maybe those questions were always there. But maybe we're just kind of, again, the unmasking, we're not faking it anymore. And so we just need real. And, the thing about when you talk about spirituality and religion, like, the realness of it all is so personal, right? It's just such a personal journey. And with me, I was not one who was raised in church, going to church. I started going to church as an adult, as a young adult in my early 20s. And I again, like with most things, it's not linear. There was some ups and some downs across that, spiritual journey for sure. And there still is, there still is. I'm still, but the thing is like, I just feel like there's more. So, and more in a deeper way, not more as in show. And I think in midlife, for a lot of us, we're just like, we're done with the show. We're done with the, dramatics of things. Like, we just want real substance. We want good quality substance in our lives, within our relationships, with our partners, within our friend group, within our workplace. Like, we just crave realness and authenticity. And I think once we get to a point in our midlife that, that just becomes so glaringly obvious, and we're not afraid to demand it from ourselves and from others. So, what is it, what happens at that point when we are in midlife and we're kind of looking around going, I just have this feeling, right? Maybe you're questioning, maybe you're in church and you're questioning, like, why is this a thing? Right? Or maybe you're just like unsettled within your church. It's like, this is a little not sitting right for me. As we've talked about before, it's okay to outgrow things, right? It's okay to, outgrow relationships, outgrow jobs. That's natural. It's evolution within ourselves is very natural. So, if anything you get from this, I really hope that you gain just the resolve of knowing that you're not wrong for questioning things. I would encourage you to lean into it, right? What's the worst that can happen? You prove yourself right. I mean, so really, honestly, so just lean into it. If you're having that, longing, that, and I do believe in, some people call them signs. I am one that I tend to kind of believe in those things. And, you know, for me, it's more of, I need something deep. I don't do, I'm very much a Sagittarius, a December Sagittarius. And so I need deep connection. I don't typically do well with surface level conversations. I like to connect with people on a deep level. And, that's a lot for some people. Not everyone likes that, by the way. But it's what feeds my soul. And I enjoy those things. So, if you are someone who's like me and you are, needing something a little deeper, that don't be afraid to lean into it. Don't feel ashamed for questioning things. That's how we learn, and that's how we grow and that's how we evolve. And that's all what midlife is about. We have done all the hard things, right? We've, raised our kids, or we've accomplished, our career goals, or we've, had a spouse. And now we get to this point and it's like, okay, so check, check, check. But I still feel a little unsettled, within a deep place within me. And, I want you to, if you're experiencing that too, like I have over the past few years, I just encourage you to kind of lean into it. Don't be afraid of that, because I would think there's something there for you to learn. Like I said, I mean, it doesn't mean that you're no longer whatever religion you've been raised in, and no, maybe it's just something deeper for you. And maybe it could be about healing old wounds. Last week we did talk about some pretty heavy stuff, about midlife coming up, some childhood trauma, and maybe this deeper connection that you are longing for. Maybe it's within yourself to kind of help heal those childhood wounds, heal from dysfunction, heal from divorce. Typically, a lot of people kind of have their spiritual awakening after their world crumbles, right? After horrible events. Then and I think that could happen for a lot of reasons. I think, if you're someone like me, like I have to know, like there's a positive. I have to have a positive spin on it. And that's just part of my healing. That's just part of what I need to kind of move forward, is that I have to find meaning in something. So if you're someone who's like that, you could be, after catastrophe or a traumatic event or a heartbreak, or whatever the case may be, that could be part of what's kind of healing for you. It's important to just recognize those things, and we can't often recognize it when we're busy. And again, we get to midlife and we're all about trying to be less busy. Well, unless you're like me, I don't know. If you're listening to this and you're like on the inside of my personal life, you kind of know that I'm not slowing down anytime soon. But for most people, you get to this point of midlife, and we're all about kind of settling in, not settling down or settling, but just kind of settling in, right? Finding your groove. And for some of us, we just kind of lived in so much chaos that quiet and stillness is triggering. It feels wrong. And so that was something that I had to learn to sit with, because, it's like, uh-oh, the shoe's going to drop. Uh-oh, what's going on? Like something negative. And I had to teach myself that rest was good and that quiet was okay. And that was very, very hard. And so, but once I did, like I learned that. And so now when I do want to have those busy times and I do want to be hitting the ground running and doing all the things and accomplishing all the things, I know that it's not out of a place of fear. I know that it's not out of a place of not wanting to heal or hiding from a reality that I don't want to face. I know that it's actually a good and positive thing. And that's just because I took that time to kind of heal and kind of self reflect. And I leaned in to those questions, as far as spirituality and religion for myself, and just kind of figuring out what makes sense for me. What does it sit right in my soul? And once things kind of click and sit right in your soul, good things can happen, amazing things can happen. And so, my prayer for you today is that if you are, again, kind of going through this spiritual awakening or spiritual questioning, that you lean into it, right? That you just lean into it and you just sit still a minute. It could be, it could be great. I am very excited about my own personal spiritual, religious evolvement. I'm at a place where things make more sense to me now, and I'm happy about that. I'm happy about all of the little signs that kind of kept pointing me along the way. And, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's associated with a particular, religion or church or facility or group or gathering or anything like that. You just have to just go on your journey. It's all personal, it's all listening to what is right with you. And I wish you well on that journey if you're on it. If you have never experienced it and you are 100% settled, God bless you. God bless you. I have friends that are like that, and so it hasn't been like I said, it hasn't been a linear journey for me. It's been quite up, quite down, quite up again, then down again, and that's okay because every step of the way, I learned something new about myself. And I learned what mattered most to me. And then I'm able to kind of let the rest go. And I hope that you learn the same thing, that you celebrate the wins and you are happy with the progress and the healing and everything that all of this spiritual awareness brings to you. But then also you kind of learn to let the other things just go. Especially those things that just don't serve us well anymore, especially once we're in midlife. So that is it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Leave us a comment. Like, share, subscribe, but leave us a comment. We want to hear from you. Are you on your own personal spiritual journey / awakening through midlife? And what did it look like for you? I know a lot of people, with it being such a personal topic, some people are less likely to want to discuss it, over coffee or, it's kind of heavy, right? It's kind of heavy, but, we're here to say the thing. And I know I'm not alone in being in midlife, being perimenopausal, having my children be grown, and looking around saying, what else is there? What else is there? My spiritual journey, I will say, started a few years ago. Just not spiritual journey, but just like that awakening, that midlife awakening in a spiritual way happened to me when I was in Italy. My husband and I took a bucket list vacation to Italy probably about 4 years ago now. And I was not expecting to be changed in the way that I was with the churches and the cathedrals and the beauty and the art and the architecture. It was very moving to me in a spiritual way. And so I hope that if you have never experienced that before, that you do experience it, whether it's in Italy or somewhere else, whether it's in your, in your own home, because I do believe that those things can happen anywhere. So that is all for today. Thank you for joining us. If you have any questions or if you have any topics you'd like us to discuss in the future, you know where to find us. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Bye.